Hi, it's Jeff Chalmers here from discoverdouble-bass.com, which is the home of online learning for double bass players. So you can go and check out our lessons, courses and interviews. It's all there to help you on your journey with your music, to really play your best. So we have classical, jazz, we also have slap bass, which is one of the topics that's most requested. So today I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome a brand new tutor to the website, somebody who is working flat out in Nashville, 7 nights a week, slapping his bass, whether it's on the stage or in the recording studio. You will also have seen him appear in Walk the Line, where he played Bill Black, of course Elvis Presley's bass player. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Slick Joe Fick. Joe, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Well, it has been such a joy for me to come to Nashville, finally to meet you. We've been talking for years about slap bass, and you've presented this really in-depth course where you go through all of the kind of keystrokes and tips and tricks and licks and what have you. So I'm just hoping that we can kind of learn a bit more about slap bass today. Sure. And to hear you play as well. Let's set this up. So what happened at the beginning? What drew you in? Who was the player that kind of got you started with this thing?
That's a really good question. I think if I had to bring it to ground zero for players would be Bill Black with Elvis. We talk about this a little bit in the course, but I got a copy of Elvis Presley, The Sun Sessions, from my best friend growing up. We had a rockabilly band together, and we were kind of looking to dig deeper into the material and really play it convincingly, or at least try to play it convincingly. And he said, man, you have to hear the Sun Sessions. He's like, it's only 3 guys. It's Scotty Moore on guitar, Elvis on acoustic, and Bill Black on bass. And he's like, what you think is the sound of the drums is actually the bass. And so to me, when I first heard it...
There's no bass on those recordings. So drums, there's no drums on those
No
recordings.
drums, with the exception of maybe a couple of tunes. It's all slap bass.
And that's mid-50s, it's 56?
So it's from July of 54 to when he got signed to RCA, which would have been like late December 55 or 56.
Right.
Yeah, so it's only about a year and a half there. But the first 5 singles that came out on Sun, plus the B-sides, I mean, those are like super important.
So you can really hear the slap bass.
Absolutely.
You know, I love that. I love those recordings.
Yes.
And I can remember listening to them when I was much younger. But I don't remember didn't remember that it was there was no drums there. So what kind of lines? Play us a typical Bill Black bass line.
The typical Bill Black bass line, I mean, where it all starts is July 5th, 1954, which is That's All Right, Mama, and it's this right here. Of course, we all know the solo section. So something like that.
Yeah, that is so cool. And just while we're on Bill Black as well, you played him in the film Walk the Line alongside your dear friend Joaquin Phoenix.
Right.
And your other famous Hollywood friends.
Yeah, we're like
that
this.
Must have been incredible to do that. And just also, you told me about the bass that you used. Was it this instrument in the film?
No, it wasn't. It was provided by the props department. It was a dark bass. Bill Black had a dark colored bass, and what was really cool about it was the props department, they asked us, they said, help us make this as authentic as possible. And if you notice, every picture you see of Bill Black early on, he has that white masking tape that goes around the edge of the bass. And it looks to me like some sort of guard, but I actually talked to Scotty Moore one time about it, and he said, no, it was just masking tape. So
I thought it was I thought it was paint.
I did too. And they said, no, he just took masking tape and went around it.
So that was Bill Black's kind of idea to make it look cool?
I guess so. That or just protect the edges one way or the other.
Maybe Elvis came up with it.
Maybe Elvis came up with it. Yeah, absolutely.
So you taped up your bass?
I did. I got some masking tape from the props department, and we went around it, and I did it myself. And what you see in that scene in the movie at Sun Studio, and then also there's a couple of live scenes where you see me playing, and that's my job on the bass I did with the tape. So. Oh
man, well you're obviously the slap bass guy if they're bringing you in for that. But it must have been so cool to be part of that project. And do you play on the soundtrack? Are you playing when they're before? When you appear on screen, is it you playing? Or?
Lip syncing bass. Yeah, no, that's it's actually Dennis Crouch.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's him playing on the bass. And I heard an interesting story about that. Actually, he the way he recorded it, he did 2 tracks. So he did pizzicato, and then they would go back and overdub the slap.
Yeah.
In order to get that note length just right to translate well onto the soundtrack. So.
That's amazing. Dennis Crouch is somebody that I would love to chat to. Hopefully
Absolutely.
Next time we're over here in Nashville, he's played on everything, hasn't he?
Yes.
So, but yeah, that must have just been so cool to be part of it. So Bill Black gets the ball rolling for you. Let's talk through some of the other bigger influences in your playing. Like, what happened next in the history of slap bass? Is there any kind of really key moments that you can think of moving forward? Or
for me?
Yeah. For
okay.
You,
well, it was definitely from the old school, the '50s cats like Bill Black, Carl Perkins' brother Clayton, Marshall Lytle, who played on Bill Haley in the Comets. But then I really started to get into like the Stray Cats. Lee Rocker.
Yeah, Lee Rocker. And he's still out there touring now.
He is,
watching it. His tours picked up again this year.
Absolutely, and he gets to get back together with the Stray Cats occasionally, and they play. And I've gotten a chance to meet him a couple times.
Are there any kind of Lee Rocker lines that you enjoy that come to mind? Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I've never learned that one note for note, but I mean, it's a song that I love to play all the time. And of course, Rock This Town, absolutely.
And so, and in terms of your playing, like, how did you develop all of the styles? Do you ever take any lessons?
Well, no formal lessons.
Yeah.
I just had a chance to watch a lot of guys play growing up. I was fortunate enough to kind of grow up in like a rootsy music scene. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and we had a lot of traveling rockabilly, hillbilly, western swing bands come through town. That, you know, my first band, we were just starting to be old enough to get on these bills with these bands, and so we would watch these bands. And then when I ended up moving to Memphis when I was 21, being in Memphis and being in Nashville, it was just kind of all around. So
yeah, so you didn't kind of go to the local slap bass teacher?
No, there wasn't one. I grew up playing cello in the orchestra.
Oh, really?
So that would probably explain my third finger.
Yeah, I was going to say, I noticed that with the third finger when you play that line then. So are you just kind of using all 4 fingers on the bass and that's how you do it?
I'm kind of using what works.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah, a lot of times what happens with me and as I get on the bandstand and we get playing pretty loud, and so a lot of what I do is just trying to keep this instrument from ringing out and feeding back and keep it as quiet as possible without any string noise. So if I have to bring my thumb around occasionally, or if I have to use a third finger, then, you know, I kind of let all the rules go out the door. Whatever's going to get the job done is kind of how I look at it.
So what are some of your favorite kind of slap patterns then that you really like? Maybe talk us through a few, because we've had the single slap there.
Single slap. Done. Well, there's a little bit of a debate actually about slapping.
Yeah.
Some players call just the palm slaps, and then some players actually call the actual initial striking of the string. That'll be a single slap. So that's how I count it. I count it single, double. That's when you draw your hand back on the board.
Yeah. So when you do the single, you're actually pulling the string away.
Pulling the string, yeah.
So there's a strike then.
Yes.
It's not just that you're playing pizzicato and then that's your first slap.
Right. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's the initial attack of the string that we're calling a single.
Yeah.
And then a double is when the hand comes back on the board once. So that's a little confusing for some people. And then triple is 2 hand slaps, and then a quadruple is 3 hand slaps. But if you count everything with the quadruple, then that is 4. So it's note and 3 slaps.
Yeah. So what about some of the maybe give us a little bit of a demo of some of the different different combinations there.
Sure, absolutely. So basically we have like our typical kind of rockabilly walking bass line, which is like you'd hear it on something like Rock Around the Clock. That's what we call a walking double slap. We have our single slap, of course. You can guys like old players like Bill Johnson from the 20s, you know, get the L on down the road. You know, they played those melodies. And then, of course, there's some real fancy stuff like Joe Zinkin, you know, Alabama Jubilee. where he plays melodies on the bass.
It's crazy because that Joe Zekin's. I mean, I'm guessing that was from the '60s. Is that right?
50s and 60s, yeah.
They're so advanced what they're playing there.
Yeah, and really up until a few years ago, he'd kind of been forgotten about. Thanks to Kent Blanton putting those videos up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Joe's kind of experiencing this whole new renaissance. I mean, he's been gone for a while, but I've heard his name probably mentioned more in the last 10 years than any old school slap bass player.
Was it Four Leaf Clover?
Yes, Four Leaf Clover.
Yeah, one of the pieces that I heard him play. And,
fantastic.
And Kent Blanton is an incredible bass player here in Nashville who's out there promoting a lot of the older, keep preserving the tradition.
Absolutely.
So he has a great Facebook group or page called, is it Legendary Bass Players of the Nashville Scene or something?
Yeah, it's the Legendary Nashville Bass Players Union or something like that. Yeah.
We'll provide a link below, but I've been really geeking out there.
Yeah, I love that site.
Okay, let's talk about some other kind of more recent players and resources that people can go to.
Sure.
So look, because as you say, there's so many modern players. The last 20 years, you have players like Kevin Smith.
Yes, for sure.
Well, yeah, who's jumping out in your mind?
Well, okay, so you mentioned Kevin Smith.
Yeah, tell us about Kevin.
He's really the game changer for me, and really for a lot of bass players that are my age. I'm 44, and when I was coming up in my 20s, so like the mid to late 90s, he was really the guy that kind of upped the level, took it to, he was doing, well, we talk about it in the chorus, he was doing things like the drag triplet and reintroducing the rumba back into a lot of music.
Let's hear that.
That kind of thing. But really his just sense of timing and tone and the use of those triplets, he's just really, he got a lot of guys really wanting to get better.
Because he's got, this big platform, the Johnny Cash gig, and presumably that's how...
That was Dave Rowe, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dave Rowe.
Right.
Who does Kevin Smith play with? I'm forgetting.
So Kevin Smith plays with Willie Nelson now.
Willie Nelson,
yeah, and...
this is why you're here, Joe, because I basically know nothing about this. So go on, tell us about Kevin Smith. I'll just shut up.
No. Kevin played with a group in the 90s called High Noon. That was his band, and that was like the throwback to it was like Elvis Presley and the Blue Moon Boys.
Yeah.
And then he actually he kind of took some of Dave Rowe's gigs because Dave had the Dwight Yoakam gig, and then Dave left that gig, so Kevin got that gig, and now he has the Willie Nelson gig. But anyway, just his playing has inspired so many of us bass players. Some of the younger guys, more my age, like the Jake Irwins and the Bo Samples, and I mean, Kevin really set that standard, and I mean, there's no wonder why. I mean, he's just a fantastic player.
There's so many awesome younger players. Two that are jumping to my mind that are a little bit, well, there's, I was trying to remember the name yesterday, Manny Toloche. Thank you. He is doing incredible things over in Mexico. His videos have got an insane number of views as well. They're so popular. Beautiful music. And,
like that Conjunto style of music. I was telling you this yesterday. I get going down that rabbit hole all the time on YouTube. I mean, they're just hundreds of those videos, and Manny really is. I mean, he's kind of the guy right now.
Yeah.
But I just absolutely love the slap bass and the 3/4 time, and a lot of the way that they're approaching it from that. That's so not what I'm used to doing. I'm used to playing, country shuffles, 2 beats, and when I hear that stuff, it just makes me kind of want to go back to the drawing board. We
need to do a road trip to Mexico, I think.
Absolutely, yes.
And one of the other people that's jumping out in my mind is Nicolas Dubuchet as well.
Yes.
And he is just such an incredible bass player over in France, a left-handed bass player, and has been sharing a lot of incredible stuff, including some tuition. I think he had a DVD, Slapology. Or
yes, Slapology, and he's got a bunch of videos on YouTube that are really helpful. It's him showing his left hand, which would be basically my right hand.
Yeah.
And we touch on some of these in this course, actually. We touch on a couple of the drag quadruplets, and we also talk about the Willie Dixon quadruplet a little.
Can we hear about this? Is a cool lick.
Okay, all right. So here's here's the drag quadruplet. Thank you, Nicola, by the way, for this.
Yeah.
And that's basically it's kind of like a karate chop. We'll use this part of our hand, and of course, that took me about a year to learn, and then, of course, the Willie Dixon quadruplet. Which is really cool because you're running a couple of double slaps together to get, it's kind of it's a bit of an illusion, really.
Are there any slaps that you use your left hand? Like on bass guitar, you have a slap effect with your left hand.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Could you give us an example of that?
Yeah, so you can do triplets, basically. If you have a triplet in the right hand, you can basically create it with by doing a drum roll like this. Of course, it only works good for open strings. Yeah. But yeah, so you could. Something like that.
Man, it sounds absolutely awesome, Joe. I love it. Well, listen, just to wrap up, let's point everybody in the direction of an amazing resource that we have both experienced and you've been a guest on, which is the slap stream that Georgie from Tiger Army shared.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you're, a friend of Georgie's, know about it, and you also featured as a guest.
Yes. So he started this back in, I believe, June of 2020.
Yeah.
And his first episode actually was Kevin Smith was his first guest. And every week he does a new guest that's a slap bass player. He'll have bluegrass players, he'll have jazz players, psychobilly, rockabilly, and he's probably done 55 to 60 episodes. He was doing it every week there for a while. I was lucky enough to be on episode 29, which was really cool. So we talked for 3 some odd hours about slap bass, and it's definitely worth checking out. Anybody that really wants to kind of geek out on this stuff, and really get into this, especially stylistically, the kind of the subtleties, I would highly recommend that. And you can just find it on YouTube. Like I said, I'm episode 29. Kevin Smith is episode 1. We mentioned Bo Sample in this curriculum too, and he's episode 35, which is another one of my favorite episodes. Kind of talks more about the jazz thing, but it's just every player kind of has a little bit different approach to it. And and Manny Toloche is on there too.
Is he really?
He is on there.
I actually haven't seen that one. Oh wow, I was geeking out on his stuff the other day, so I'll have to go and check that out. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to cut to listen to Joe perform. We did a little solo thing earlier on, which I just couldn't believe how good it was. So we're going to share that with you. But before we get there, I just want to say thank you, Joe. Spending time with you this week has been such a joy, and you put so much effort and care into these lessons. So if you want to learn Joe's approach to slap bass, please go and check that out. And Joe, where can people find out more about you? I believe you have a website.
I do. It's slickjoefick.com.
Excellent. Well, let's leave it there. We're going to go and listen to Slick Joe Fick.
All right, you can play the bass, you can slap the bass. This is a single slap right here, used a lot in old school jazz music. And you can walk the bass like in the single slap. And you can double slap. It's where you have your hand drawn back on the board like this, and then you can walk it. And you can triple slap it like Johnny Cash. You can swing it. You can gallop. And you can triple it. And you can play quadruplets. You can play slow quadruplets. Play quadruplets like Willie Dixon. And you can rumba. You can Bo Diddley. Shaving a haircut, 2 bits. Ha ha.